All of us are stars. Some are greater stars and some are smaller stars. It's like a constellation. If you're Orion and you're the belt in Orion, then you're Mr. Domingo or Mr. Pavarotti or Mr. So-and-so or Madame Caballé or Franny. But then there are the other people who fill out the heavens like the Milky Way, and that's the chorus. And they are stars too, and they're us.
Everything has to be right on stage. You have to remember the notes. You have to remember where you're standing, where you're blocked. If your makeup's on right, that nothing's running under the lights, that you're standing in the right place, that you're singing the right notes, that you haven't forgotten the words, that you're acting your character. Your mother may be out there in the audience. People think, oh, this is just an easy job. It isn't.
Aye, aye.
She's obviously a lady, and I'm obviously a peasant.
I'm a peasant, like I am in all the operas.
You're a great peasant. That's okay, I need my costume.
Most of our costumes are made out of silk because silk lasts for a long time. I'm a peasant, and my costume is made out of silk. But the leads have these gorgeous costumes, and the baritone was so handsome. He has these beautiful, colorful silks on. At one point in the scene, he turns up stage and his face is just dripping with sweat. He picks up this beautiful silk piece of his costume and wipes his face. The wardrobe department comes unglued. If we drink in our costumes or eat in our costumes because they don't want us to get any little speck of grease or dirt on our costumes, and I'm sure that they have to clean his every performance.
10 minutes, please. 10 minutes to places for two. 10 minutes.
And the curtain will go up and the lights will start hitting you from feet up. And it just sort of like pulls you straight up and you're sort of hanging by your ears like this and you're on. I can think on my feet. I can predict what's going to come next. If there's a hole on the stage, I can almost feel it. You learn quickly how to find the light pools so you can be well lighted. And it's a great feeling of power, a feeling of manipulation to make the audience go through something while they're sitting in the opera house. You have to become a part of a unit and at the same time maintain an individual identity. You have to learn how to look like everyone else but have something special that singles you out. It's far easier to be a soloist, to stand out there by yourself because you have only one thing to do. I get really agitated when people say, oh, you're in the chorus. Very it's like, I'm sorry. I have nothing to apologize for. If I do my job, I'm just as important as the person who pulls out the blackout curtain or the person who does the follow spot or any of those other important jobs that does not happen to stand in the middle of the stage and sing an aria. Now, I'm not silly. Being in the middle of the stage and singing an aria and getting that thunderous applause is just overwhelming. The feeling, I mean, that's the pay. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna work my behind off and I'm gonna get it. My dream role is probably Rigoletto. What a tortured creature he is. He's a court jester. And all the horribleness of that job. Being deformed and having people always laugh at you. I mean, I remember when I was in grade school, and I was overweight in grade school. And, you know, you got fatso, you got pointed at you, and, you know, at recreational time, and on the playground when everybody was running around, and you might be running also, but at much slower rate. And I remember that pain.
Cortigiani di razza danata, per qual prezzo vendesti il mio bene? A voi nulla per loro sconviene, ma mia figlia impagabil tesor.
I've experienced some of that. You know, I grew up in North Carolina. I was born in 1955, and I remember when going to a neighboring city and walking into a drugstore, a pharmacy. In the South, they always have a little section for fountain sodas, ice cream sodas, sundaes. And I couldn't sit at the counter because I'm black. You know, that pain of not knowing why, and you turn to your mom and go, why?
Cortigiani di razza danata, per qual prezzo vendesti il mio bene?
Eat as much as I possibly can. Keep the energy going.
1, 2, 3, it's on.
We got 2 out.
Ace. Another nickel.
Opera found me. I mean, I didn't go searching for it as a career. It found me. I saw it. I knew I was connected. I feel like an opera singer, and this suits me very well when I'm performing. I have no problem on the stage. I love it. Singing low. Then, as time went on and my voice started maturing, it became apparent that I would be a soprano. And that scared me, absolutely. It absolutely scared me because I had been working very hard for a long time on developing a persona and a technique to go with the mezzo repertoire. I said, how am I going to be a good girl now? I remember thinking that. Because for me, always the soprano was the good girl, the angel. Get out of here, Theo. Go to your corner, go to your cage.
We had a big argument today, and I made Claudia go in
Theo,
with this argument.
Shut up.
Once again. And 1.
A friend was auditioning, and I went along to audition. I got in. I started to realize that this was not singing for pleasure. This was not easy. It involved a lot of people, a lot of stress.
Let's make more of feste, pane, feste. And again, that's better. 1, 2. And again. 1, 2. Now.
And all of a sudden, I was singing for my livelihood.
Go alla Ah!
It's impossible to talk about my singing without mentioning my ex-husband, because when I met him, we were introduced by a mutual friend. He looked at me and he said, "Why do you think you're a mezzo?" And I thought, who is this guy? What nerve? I said, "Because I am." He said, "Well, just sing something for me. Just sing anything." He owned a restaurant. We went upstairs, and I sang the first line from an aria. Ozean du Ungeheuer, Schlangen gleiches du umschlungen, rund die ganze Welt. It's a soprano aria. I don't know why it came into my head. I don't know. I had never worked on it. And he looked at me and said, "You are insane. You are the soprano we're waiting for. You better get on the ball, and you better accept who you are." So I left the chorus. We got married. I started training my voice for the soprano repertoire, and I'm still working on it. My husband was in Italy, insisted that I drop everything, sell my car, and get over there. I thought, well, okay, I'll go. He had arranged an audition with the opera company in Florence, Teatro Comunale, and we went and we were fighting a half an hour before the audition. He had an idea of what I was going to sing. He wanted me to sing Ritorna Vincitor, Aida's big aria. There was no way I could sing it. I had an idea that maybe I could sing something I had been working on. He insisted. I got up there and I attempted to sing that aria, and it was a disaster, a total disaster. I could see my husband sitting in the audience, shrinking lower and lower, and they didn't stop me. Nobody stopped me. They made me finish it. We left the theater and walked along the river. And I remember Gregory saying, "I don't know what to do with you. I should probably just throw you in the river and forget all of this." I realized that our relationship as married people was over. I wanted my own life back. And I called San Francisco, and Maestro Bradshaw told me that I should come back and start work again. I visualized myself as a soloist. Last year, I finally felt, when we were doing Tosca, I felt on stage during a performance, I don't want to be in the chorus. I want to do Tosca. It takes incredible discipline, it takes technique, and it takes a desire. It's a big responsibility. I want to be the best.
To be next to the really big stars on stage, to be next to the world's greatest voices, is fabulous. If you're standing near Birgit Nilsson and she's singing loud and high, your sinuses buzz. And it's an incredibly visceral kind of feeling that people in the audience just don't get. They may get the, slap in the head, my God, that was a fabulous high C effect, but their sinuses don't ring. I once worked with a chorister who really loved the stars, who loved them so much that in the midst of these cloak and dagger operas, he took his old 8mm camera on stage with him and ended up having wonderful movies.
Dresser.
I want to see if my hat was off my face. It was like right there. Falling off. Did it stay on?
There was a beautiful lady, and she happened to make me forget my words whenever I was partnered with her. And we were both free, and I married my best friend.
Mi dirai di sì, mi trema un poco il cuore, attenden mio da qui. A tuo guardarmi ancora, vieni bel diletto, io canterò tua sorte. Non son più forte, non son più forte, non son più forte. Andiam, andiam. Andiamo, andiamo bene, a ristorare le pene, Tonino c'è.
Doing that mime roll. You know how they do the old Faust, young Faust? What is he doing over there? So much for dinner.
Andiamo bene, andiamo, le pene a ristorar, Tonino c'è di amor.
It's something I really love, even though sometimes I get upset and angry and the hours are crazy and I never see my family and I'm never home and da-da-da-da. I have this need to sing. It's like there's something that's not whole about me unless I sing. And I'm lucky to get to do it for a living.
I had always been a singer. I started singing when I was maybe 8 years old, 9 years old in a church choir. And as long as I can be in the chorus, I get to satisfy all my needs for being in the theater. I have been in the theater most of my life.
Tonight is Parsifal.
This costume is for Parsifal, and it's for the Blumenmädchen, or the flower maidens. And some of us are lucky enough to take off our wreaths and our hats and drop our cloaks, and we're, of course, very sexy. And
when you're out under the lights on stage, you could steam broccoli. under here. I mean, asparagus for sure.
The men in the chorus are knights of the Round Table, and we're protectors of the Holy Grail. We sing beautiful music. It's very religious.
Really, Ed? I'm not.
We have been denied the Grail, and we're suffering. That is our life force. We're falling apart. We can't breathe. Some of us have gone blind. We have to come on, stumbling and falling in armor on this formica floor. We're in long robes with rubber-bottom shoes. It's like a skating rink. You have to hold yourself up from falling. You end up in knots at the end of the evening.
No, don't change it. Mother, here I come, Mother! Don't look.
They've spent something like $14,000 to make those women's costumes more comfortable. It was several layers of quilted material, and they couldn't hear out of them. They've resewn the headpieces and then put lighter fabric in so they can hear through them.
Osservate, leggete com'è, osservate, leggete com'è. In Italia 640, in Almania 231, 100 in Francia, in Turchia 91, ma in Spagna, Spagna son già 1.300.
1.300, L.
1.300.
All right.
1.300. One for queste contadine.
Now, yeah. But now the piano's doing that. Don't imitate the piano. Never put the same weight on every note, because otherwise the voice will not move. So find out where you want to give and where you want to take away. Da 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 da. But not da 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 da. See what I mean? All right, try it.
100 in Francia, in Turchia 91.
Ma
in Spagna.
Now, ma.
Ma in Spagna son già
1.300. You're amazed.
1.300.
More M.
My father is a truck driver, and I learned to be a truck driver. My father is an avid opera fan. He listens to Joan Sutherland records, so I was submitted to that when I was about 8, 9, 10 years old, and so I used to listen to it, and I thought it was screaming, actually.
Good. Very good. Okay. Ladies, at that point, can you guys get farther over? Good. Colin, Dallas is your mother. Okay. You kids are trying to buy pinwheels. Here we go.
Quiet, please.
Everybody freeze. Freeze, that means no movement. Traffic jam here.
Unico forte. Ah. Ma all'inizio piano e non subito forte, graduale il crescendo, molto controllato. Molto controllato.
Restola. We need most.
Abbiamo bisogno di tutti
Sì,
per
sì,
presto.
sì, giusto.
But I'll reduce the
Ma
small
forse riduce...
Ultimo intervento sul crescendo, con la crostata
Yeah.
molto forte.
Yeah. It's good. I'll do that.
And after.
Okay. Okay. Ready? Here we go.
tutto l'entrata di musetta?
No, no, dopo la pausa vado avanti.
Ah, bene.
E la bellezza. Ricerca in me, da capo. Legatemi alla seggiola. Quella gente che dirà è da Sapporo.
Salud, Joy.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thank you. Give me a nice opening. Good luck, man. You really want.
Great. The
Thank
audience
you.
seems to enjoy it.
This year was a very good year for me. I got this wonderful little part in L'Africaine. I was a priest, and I got to come out in the third act with Justino Diaz and Mark Delavan, and I was featured straight in the center of the stage. When I rehearsed it, I was a little nervous, and Latvia had to work with me to calm me down and got me to relax a lot. Diaz says they have killed all the people on the boat. And Verrett, who's in love with Domingo, says, oh heavens, all? And then I go up to Diaz very slyly and say, which means, alone we have found one chained to the bottom of the boat that still breathes. Then the procession goes off, and Diaz says to me, what is that noise? And I say, they're bringing the barbarian women in to be tortured. And then I march off. And I actually didn't like opera when I was in high school. I liked to sing. And I had to go to my first opera to really fall in love with opera. When I was 17, I went to the Metropolitan and saw the Magic Flute. And in the standing room section, I kind of associated with the people on the stage and felt, wouldn't it be wonderful to be on the stage and get all that applause for singing? When I was growing up in the Bronx, there were a lot of gangs and drug addicts, and I was mugged 3 times at the age of 12, twice with a knife. I think anyone who gets out of the Bronx alive and lives past the age of 30 has done a major achievement for themselves. We lived in a 3-room tenement apartment. We had 13 rats over the years, which I personally helped kill with rat poison. We had cockroaches, water bugs, flying roaches. The water ran constantly. The bathroom was not fixed. And my mother kept garbage in the house at all times, and she had this paranoia about the super looking through the garbage. The lights were kept on. I slept with the lights on until I was 17. There was no telephone till I was 17. I was not allowed to bring people up in the house because my mother was just afraid, totally paranoid of the outside world. My mother was 32 when she got married, and my father was 46. And they were a very handsome couple. Since the picture, unfortunate things happened to them. My father left when I was about 2 years old. I never saw my father in my life. He tried to come to the door and visit us and would knock at the front door, and my mother would say, "Everyone keep quiet or else I'll kill you. Don't let your father in. Don't let him hear us that we're behind the door." So my father was literally inches away, and I never saw him in my life. I sang "I'm a Lonely Boy," Paul Anka's song, in the 7th grade, first time I ever sang, and I was very scared, but everybody applauded. I desperately wanted to get out of that neighborhood, and music was my key to getting out. When I was 14, I auditioned for the High School of Music and Art, and I sang Moon River because I didn't know anything else, and they accepted me. And by the time I was ready to graduate high school, I decided I was going to be an opera singer. I buried myself in work and took 10 courses during the week at college, plus piano voice lessons on the weekend, and was never home if at all possible. I'd leave at 8 in the morning, would come home till midnight. Working under this strain eventually wore me down, and at the age of 18, I had a nervous breakdown and was hospitalized for 22 months in Psychiatric Institute in Manhattan, a very fine hospital, which almost had to audition for. I continued to sing and play the piano when I could, to a point where the doctors had to tell me to shut up. I was making so much noise and disturbing the other patients by singing opera. So the force of music saved me.
Madeline's words are all untrue. She will never come to you. She gave me her promise. Madness cancels every vow. She will never keep it now. Make a beggar, whore, and witch in a common darkness sit. Seasons, fashions never change. All is dead, yet all is strange. All our foes and none are friends.
I graduated from this institution and never went back. It's hard to know my past and to know my present and to feel they were the same life.
Something happened when I did Of Mice and Men with the Berkeley Opera Company that indicated to me that I have something more to offer than just being in the chorus. In the last performance, I just let go of everything and let myself be that character. Lola Watson played Curly's wife, and the scene in which I killed her was truly disturbing. It was the kind of experience where in the middle of a scene, I kept having these revelations about what I was doing. And if you can have revelations in front of an audience and not lose your concentration, you can give amazing performances. I think that's probably what Leonie Rieseneck does. She never does things quite the same way twice. Watching her as Ortrud in Lohengrin was like that. Sometimes she would make a movement that worked really well, and the next time she wouldn't make that movement anymore. But 15 minutes down the line, she'd do something else that was even more overwhelming than the first time. So I finished that performance, and I walked off stage. And then you have to turn around and come back on and smile and bow. Like you just didn't. It's hard to put into words. Because people who aren't performers don't really understand what I'm talking about. Because they haven't done it. They haven't gone in front of an audience and been somebody else. Most people don't leave the stage and kind of have to shake their head and realize, well, now I'm Daniel Becker again. Now I'm Leonie Riesenack. Here I am equating myself with Leonie Riesenack. But she would know what I meant. And there are a few other people. Renata Scotto would know what I meant. People always joke about Renata Scotto's curtain calls where she comes out and plops to her knees with tears running down her face. But, I just didn't have the guts to do that. I know why she did that, because that's how she felt. She just died, I think the last time I saw her do that was on a Met broadcast of Suor Angelica. She has a vision of her dead baby in heaven beckoning to her. And the stage direction is that you see the Virgin Mary push the baby towards her, and they run into each other's arms, and thank God they didn't do that. She just knelt and saw this, and you saw her seeing it. And her eyes got this incredible glazed expression, and then she just died. And then the woman comes out for a curtain call, thud onto her knees, and she's weeping, and I'm sure people in the audience were giggling. I was sitting in the middle of my bed, sobbing brokenly.
Thanks, but I can hear you all the time, too, so I can't be that
Is that
loud.
your voice, or
I
you?
can be what they call it, Zwischenfach. I can do mezzo or soprano. But they want to pigeonhole you. They want to know exactly, are you a lyric soprano? Are you a lyric spinto? Are you a dramatic soprano? There are so many categories of soprano. It's very confusing.
We have a very long life as singers, right? We can start very, very high, and as we grow more golden and more mellow, our voices also grow more golden and more
That's
mellow.
weird. Manny's a soprano that started out as mezzo, and of course Resnick started as a soprano and went the other direction.
She's done everything in the operatic world.
Yes, and Elizabeth Schwarzkopf could do no wrong. She was absolutely fabulous. In the one season we did like 15 Così fan tutti, and she did every note.
Right.
And
what about
she
the
was
soprano
nice.
girls,
right?
Nielsen,
yeah.
Or Flagstad. I remember standing in back with my
Schraube.
mother's standing room way back in Opera House saying, she's wearing a microphone. Her voice is so loud. And my mother kept saying, that's her natural voice. It's
What does
so
build
big.
have to do with voice? I was told once that the size of the voice depended a lot on how the face was built and the cheekbones. And if you look at it, a lot of us have these broad faces with high cheekbones. And I think it really helps.
The smaller the chords, usually the higher the voice. And I went into a laryngologist once, and he said, my God, he says, you have such teeny, teeny little chords. He says, what kind of soprano are you?
People will say, oh, you should sing this role, it's perfect for you. And then the next person that hears you says, what are you doing singing that aria?
A lot of people will stand there and they sing, they sound great, but they're not really relating to what's happening on stage. You have to look at the character without the music.
If you can find something in that person's character that even matches or comes close to your own, such as the wonderful part of Tosca, which almost every soprano wants to sing, because for some strange reason they relate their lives to being a diva and a singer and a great actress. So you really have to pull out all the stops in order to do that role, I think.
And are you a Tosca?
Pardon me?
Are you a Tosca?
I think I am, yes.
Definitely.
Uh-huh.
Oh, Giovanna's got a gorgeous voice. I mean, it's just liquid.
I think her temperament is Tosca, both on and off the stage.
Mm.
She's a Tosca.
And,
And I have been an Aida, and I like the drama of the opera itself, and I have always felt that way. I feel I'm an
Or
Aida.
sopranos as people.
Sopranos are the most exposed voice.
That's interesting. And they're the bitchiest, too.
And the
They have
bitches.
a joke in my school that said, how many sopranos does it take to sing a high C? And the answer is 7. 1 to sing the high C, and 6 to say, I can do that better.
I like that. That's true.
Number one. Number
Talk to you about
two,
this, Sally.
you marry somebody who's willing to support this habit because it's an addiction. Right, ladies?
Yes.
It's an addiction to be a soprano and to be in the chorus.
A toast to Jennifer and great success tonight at the
Well,
audition.
to music.
Okay, who's
and
art?
opera.
Who's got the pitch?
Vici d'arte, vici d'amore. Oh, that's a good one.
B flat.
Ready?
Or I will be a grand.
Come on, Giovanna,
Or we have a toast.
The plots are all the same. It's love and death and sex and let's get drunk and let's go be unfaithful and I'm gonna kill you. It's like, who shot JR? It's who killed Manrico. I mean, it's all the same stuff. It's just wildly adventurous, improbable stuff going on. Of course, then you do Wozzeck that makes you want to go out and slash your wrists by the end of the opera because it's too close to reality. It's the improbability of certain operas. It's the extravagance of emotion that just lets everything all hang out, and there you are, come in running up, Manrico, your mother's burning, and then he says, tremble ye tyrants, because my mother is burning. Mother, I'll save you. Oh, here comes the chorus. And they're gonna sing for a while, and of course, then he steps forward and sings an aria for 2.5 minutes while his mother is at Sizzler.
Mussorgsky's Kovanshchina is one of the great chorus operas that exists. It starts out as this drunk scene amongst these gun-for-hire people. And their women come on and say, you guys are always drunk, and they slap us around. And this becomes more and more, quote, festive, unquote, until finally this little minor soloist comes running on and says, you guys had better all come back to the camp because Peter the Great's guards have come in and they're raping the women and burning our houses. The chorus turns to Prince Khovansky's palace and says, little father, come out and save us. Our lives are being torn to shreds. He comes out and says, you think it's like it used to be when I could just come out and say everything's okay and we'd go kill a few people and everything would be fine. Well, it's not like that anymore. Goodbye. He goes back into his palace. And the chorus sings this prayer. This pianissimo prayer that's just, in the circumstances, it's overwhelming. These people are expressing the fact that their lives are over. They're not necessarily dead, but maybe in a few years they'll have some remarkable opera like that about Auschwitz or Cambodia. But you really felt that you were part of an entity which was the chorus, expressing its soul.
A lot of people start to take voice lessons when they're very young, but I didn't start until I was 20. I wanted to take them before, but I didn't have the money. I was always very shy, and I loved to sing, but I couldn't sing in front of people. I was terrified. But a little at a time, I got better. And I still hate auditioning. Most people do, but it's not a question of being shy anymore. It's just being afraid that I'm not going to do well. When the chorus audition came up, oh, I auditioned just on a whim, really. I auditioned and I got in, and I was very glad that I did, because I was able to support myself. I'm a soprano. I'm a coloratura soprano. I sing very high, fast literature. I have about 3 octaves. So I go up to A above high C. And that's just a freak. It's just a freak that I have, where I'm just able to sing very high. And that doesn't have much to do with my technique. I've always had that since I was a little girl. I used to be able to sing much higher than that. And then once I started to learn to sing, I lost about an octave. But I still sing up to an A now. And that is just another part of my voice that just flips up and goes up there, and I don't really have anything to do with it. And people, that's what people always say, oh, you can sing so high. I would like to be a soloist because that's how I express myself. Some people don't want to be soloists. And some people have just given up on the idea because they're, too old for it, and or they just, it's just too difficult, too many sacrifices you have to make. It's hard to have a family. It's hard to, look at me. I don't even own anything because I'm always traveling around, and none of this furniture is mine. I don't have any really home either. And I've been here a year, and I'm just starting to feel comfortable here, and now I have to leave again. So it's hard, but I know that I wouldn't be happy if I wasn't doing this. I have to sing. I can't give up on it now because I don't want to look back on it when I'm older and say I could have. I have to try to do it now. I'm going to go to Europe, and I want to live there. I'm going to be auditioning in Germany and Austria because that's where most of the jobs are. Dear Allie and Irving, I'm writing in the train from Milan to Rome. I'm not waiting around anymore for that stupid agent to do something for me. Sergio introduced me to the maestro at Vatican Radio. I did an audition and got work. I wrote to 20 opera houses and got only 3 responses. I'm working on a lot of new music. I still don't know if this thing for Berlin is for sure. I now have $400 left, and if I don't get asked to go to Lugano for a few concerts, I'll be in big trouble.
To be a successful soloist, I mean really successful, you have to have someone behind you. I don't mean with money, although that would be nice, I'm sure. I mean someone who is totally supportive. This can be a mother, or a husband, or wife, or even an agent. Beverly Sills always had her mother, her husband, and her incredible voice teacher. There just isn't anyone. You have to have someone there. And that's why it's always sad to see someone who doesn't have someone behind them who's very good, who continues to make the rounds of auditions, and you know they'll never get there. You can't go home at night alone. And Judy Garland said, "The applause is great, but you can't take applause to bed with you."
I have never been the kind of driven person to be a soloist, which is why when I met my wife, Ruth Ann, it was not difficult to stop singing as a soloist and join the chorus. Ruth Ann has tremendous drive, determination, and she struggled. She worked so hard, and she has great talent. She's not just talented, she's beautiful. She's not just beautiful, she has a wonderful heart that shows on stage. And I saw that and said, oh, I don't have that much talent, and I know I don't have that much drive. And now she has someone in me. I give her encouragement. I'm a musician, I'm a singer, like she is. And so we have a kind of a team effort. Sometimes I wish I was still a soloist. When I'm sitting at my piano at home and I'm alone and I'm singing a song by Beethoven or Fauré or Ravel, and I would think to myself how wonderful it would be to sing a recital, you know, just intimately. But so much of the career is not the performance. So much of the career is the auditioning and the preparation and the desire and knowing the right people and being in the right place, that it's not a difficult desire to dismiss. Well, I met Ruth Ann Swenson on the Western Opera Theater tour in 1982. She was singing Gilda on Rigoletto, and I was singing Marullo, which is a very small part. We had kind of a love at first sight. They call it a tour romance. It was very intense and very romantic. I heard her sing Gilda 14 or 15 times, and it was always entranced by her singing. But I was very entranced by the person. And so I think that's what it was that really brought us together. And I still wonder why, what she saw in me, except maybe, I don't know. I really loved her, and she really wanted someone to love her for just her, not because she was a singer on her way to a career, but just for her, and I do that. Now she sings all over the world. We miss each other not only as lovers, but when she sings a new role or when she makes a debut in a new opera house, I want to be there, and she wants me to be there.
In 1982, I heard about the San Francisco Opera coming to Chicago audition singers for the chorus, and I decided to audition. At that time, I was recovering from a terrible flu, and I was really desperate. I didn't have any money. I quit all my jobs to pursue musical career. I really didn't have much hope for getting this job because there were too many people auditioning for that. And I thought that all these people have wonderful voices and look great, and studied with 10 different teachers, and I didn't study with anybody. So I sang just out of desperation. I sang Prince Igor's aria.
О, дайте, дайте мне свободу, я мой позор сумею искупить. Спасу я честь свою и славу, я русь от недруга спасу.
I wish I always sang as I sang that day, because I was a Prince Igor.
So I auditioned. Maestro Adler was the chorus director at the time, but I didn't want to tell my teacher just in case I wasn't accepted, and that way I wouldn't have to explain anything to anybody. So I thought, but if I am accepted, won't I really surprise her and how happy she would be? So I came down, and I even lied about my age. I put down I was 22 because I thought maybe they wouldn't even hear me at 19. And I sang Mi chiamano Mimi because at that time I was a relatively light lyric soprano. And lo and behold, I get accepted into the chorus, and I run with my letter to Mrs. Ricks, and I'm so excited, you know, the most wonderful thing that ever happened. She hit the ceiling. She said, "You're not old enough, your voice isn't ready, it's not in place, it's not mature. If you join the chorus now, within a year, not only won't you be singing, you won't even be speaking."
I didn't know any opera music whatsoever. I was thoroughly unfamiliar with opera. So I sang the Pie Jesu from the Fauré Requiem, which is written for soprano, and it's written in Latin. and it went pretty darn well, I thought, except that I held the music during the whole thing, even though I knew it by heart. I was so nervous and didn't know what to do with my hands during an audition. So I thought, I don't want to have to act. I hope they wouldn't ask me to do that. So I thought I'll just hold the music and that'll take care of it. Well, of course, when they took one look at me and when they heard what I was going to do, they should have said, "Thank you very much, next." But they did not. And I had the Carmelite nuns up at Cristo Rey here in San Francisco in their community all praying for me that evening. And that's why I got in. I know that's why I got in.
What are you going to sing?
I'd like to sing the Queen of the Night's Vengeance aria.
Right. We are listening to auditions all over the United States. I am interested in voices which have professional training behind their technique. We then consider how they walk into the audition, how they stand, how they perform the arias that they sing. Do they bring something dramatic to it?
You're up for something, and they go, "No, you're too tall, you're too short, you're too fat, you're too this, you're too that for the part." And then you say, "Oh, well, okay." And then you go home and you try to get taller or shorter or skinnier or whatever, you know.
For some reason, it is still difficult for a black male to be the hero or the principal character on the stage. And the public is not yet ready to see a black male in power. Non-blacks, they've been darkening for years, you know. Fine, make me lighter, put a wig on me, shave my beard off, a mustache off. It happens every day. And can I sing it? If I can sing it, fine. Fix me up visually to be what you want.
I first came to San Francisco in 1972, and I was fresh out of the Navy. And I wanted my parents to think that I was still in the Navy. In truth, I was now out looking for a job and was ineligible even for unemployment. And I went completely broke. And I had to sleep under a highway overpass. And I really had no idea where my life was going to go. I only knew that I was me now and I was free, for the first time, truly free. During Flying Dutchman, the chorus men are a bunch of drunken sailors. And we're dancing and we're drinking, throwing bottles about. This is all the dream of the steersman. This whole scene is his dream. We're looking over at the steersman and we're saying, "Hey, come on, leave your watch, leave the wheel, come join us, let the ship go wherever it wants to go. Drink and get drunk and have a good time." And something happened. the scene came to life in a way that it became absolutely real. We were no longer choristers singing chorus music, and it was no longer Wagner's music. It just came alive, and it was as if the music was coming out of us. It was as if we were composing it, and it was real, and no one else had ever written it. And it wasn't just for me. I knew it was other people around me. Something had happened. My life really would be nowhere without Ed, my partner, who has suffered through our unbelievably wretched schedule and borne it all with a great deal of grace.
I like to refer to myself as an opera widow. It's the first time we've been together in about 3 or 4 days that I've had a chance really to talk to him, because he usually doesn't get home till 10:30, 11, and I'm usually in bed. Then I get up about 6 to get to work. So I don't see him during the season when there are rehearsals and about ready to open the opera. But then in January, Tom's here all the time, and I come home not to an empty house, but to Tom, who's full of energy, and I'm exhausted from work. So it's a switch that you have to make all year long of having him here or not having him here. The benefit of living with somebody that's in the opera chorus is getting to hear all the wonderful stories about the principals and the opportunity to go to the operas. I take my binoculars and I always try to find Tom. He usually tries to tell me what he's wearing so I can find him on stage.
In those dress rehearsals, that to me is the best performance of them all, because I have Ed sitting out there in the house and I know that no matter what else goes on, there's somebody who's watching me. I had said that I really wasn't that interested in being a star, but in a way, it's irrepressible sometimes. Once I was in the hospital for minor surgery, and I was on the operating table, and they had given me no sedation at this point. I was wide awake. And the nurse came over and listened to my lungs, and she said, "Take a deep breath." So when she heard, she gasped, and she said, "I can hear your bronchioles all the way to the bottom of your lungs. What do you do? Are you an athlete?" And I said, "Oh, sure." I said, "I'm a singer." And she said, "That explains it." And she brought another nurse over to hear it. And the nurse said, "Sing something." So I couldn't think of anything else, so I sang Se ben crudele. There I was. Se ben crudele mi fai languir. And they were hooking up the IVs at this point. And I was singing, "Even though cruel ones, you cause me to languish." And the only way they could shut me up was with sodium pentothal. So I guess I am a star in my own way.
A lot of people find my voice very interesting because I started out in the chorus for 2 years in the bass section, then moved up to the baritone section. 3 years ago, I was put in the first tenor section, and this year I'm now in the second tenor section, which means, for example, in La Bohème, that I will have now sung all 4 parts of the male repertoire in the chorus, which is very difficult because I find myself coming in on bass entrances and singing baritone parts.
When I started, I just wanted to sing everything. I just thought I wanted to be everybody from Lauritz Melchior to Cesare Valletti and Alfredo Kraus and Richard Tucker and Franco Corelli, all rolled into one. I mean, I wanted to be Radamés and Almaviva and Siegfried. And I just found out that, God didn't do it. God said, "We're going to play a trick on you because you're going to be loud, but you're not going to be quality loud."
I grew up on a farm in Indiana, and my first singing lessons were calling the hogs. But unfortunately, our daddy said that my singing didn't bring them, it scared them.
It's generally accepted that the normal male voice is a baritone voice. Tenors have had to learn how to do what they do. And they're always on the edge. There's always this little possibility that they're going to screw up because it's not a natural way to sing.
First hand in the chorus is kind of a nice thing for me. It means that I get to sing a lot of the melody parts. It means that I consider myself to be a lot rarer than a lot of other voices.
You can't bluff it out as a tenor. But anywhere above an F, if the notes aren't there, they're not going to happen if you scream. They're just not going to exist.
They say it helps to be crazy to be a tenor. That's usually the case. I don't know why.
Tenors have a reputation for being high-strung, kind of stupid. And the fact of the matter is that it's true. And I'm not too sure why. As Anna Russell said, they have resonance where their brains ought to be. And I think it's not that they're stupid, really. It's just that this continual worrying about whether they're going to be able to sing at all makes them very self-centered.
I don't run around with the scarves around my throat. I don't gargle. I eat normal food. I can drink Coca-Cola. I'm not worried about losing my voice tomorrow.
I'm a prima donna second tenor with absolutely no qualms. And we have a couple of prima donnas in the other sections too. The first tenors have a tendency, because they know they've got the tune and they've got the high notes.
The only time of the year we have men in the dressing room is when we have pants rolls.
I've been told I look cute as a man.
You do.
It's scary, you know.
You do. But don't you like being a boy? I mean, it's kind of fun.
It's
'cause you
different
get to,
because I never get to be one.
That's right.
You know?
You get to act a lot differently and have a good time, goof around. You don't have to be careful how you sit.
That's true.
Sit with your legs spread. It doesn't matter.
It's a little awkward at first. I have a girlfriend. I put my arm around her, and every now and then I find myself doing something a girl might do, like putting my arm on my hip, and I quickly remove it and put it somewhere I think a boy might put it. Pull my shoulders back. But, and then it's a little different to be loving and flirting with a girl. Or at least I find it.
You have a shoulder pad?
Putting them in, yeah.
I don't have a shoulder pad.
I brought them myself.
Oh, I see.
I don't like to look wimpy when I'm a man.
You want to look like a real macho?
Yeah.
This is Ken Mullicelli.
Donna. No,
Non vidi mai. Okay, excuse me. It's off to Act 3 of Monols.
It was after the dress rehearsal of Tosca, and I'd gotten out of costume and makeup when I was on my way out the stage door, and I literally had to squeeze past Mr. Adler, who was sort of blocking it, and just as I was caught between him and the door, he turned all of his attention right on me and looked me right in the eye and said, "You must sing louder." And I think I went into the state of shock and sort of stared into his forehead. And when I didn't respond, he frowned and said, "You must comprehend the enormity of this house." Well, his secretary turned to him and said, "Mr. Adler, are you quite aware of who you were just talking to?" And he said, "Of course, Mr. Johnson," who was one of the principals. And she said, No, that's Tom Reed, the chorister." And he frowned, and he pushed open the door and said, "In that case, sing softer."
Don't force it. Don't try to make your voices bigger than they are. If they ain't bigger, they ain't bigger, but they won't sound better if you push, okay? 1, 2.
Opera is a battle. Anything organized, I suppose, any discipline is a battle. And the more people we have on stage, the more difficult it is to keep the organization.
being there often 8-9 hours a day, straight through 14 days in a row for 8 months, and still somehow get along without killing each other, and having to relate on the stage and being lovers one day and enemies and all these dramatic moments. And it would be very easy to get into fist fights.
It's very difficult when you put 60 people together that may not be soloists, but that doesn't mean they're not artists. And they have artist temperament. Things get very hot, and people yell at each other.
And you're barking out these consonants over and over again. And some people say, I'm not ruining my voice on that music. And then they'll go, toot, 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 toot. And you just want to slap them silly because there you are, turning your throat into pate. And, to get the effect that the composer wants. And there's someone else going, Figlia d'Averno, schiudi la chiostra, e tarda meno, a noi ti mostra.
You can't take it too seriously. I mean, it is, after all, opera, and opera is a very funny kind of theater that has been dead for a long time, and we attempt to revive it and make it exciting.
Only not everybody can have a face like mine, so it's unfortunate.
Now do your vulture act. I mean,
We have to put makeup on our feet. Does anybody know? We have to put makeup on our feet?
Yeah. Oh, feet and hands, I was told.
Feathers. Let me put my feathers on.
My hump is going to slide to the other side.
No hump. I would not let them put a hump on me. I have too many humps as it is. So, can you see these purple fingernails? I'm going to get away because I guess
my good size. Oh, oh, lordy. Those 49ers.
I went to Europe for a year, and I almost got one job in Frankfurt. It's a very important opera house, so I was very excited about that. And a week or so before I was supposed to go to Frankfurt to discuss the details and hopefully to sign a contract, the opera house burned down. This last year that I was in Italy, I could have done a lot better, and I didn't because I didn't concentrate enough. My voice teacher has always said that if I put as much concentration into my music as I do into men, that I would be a star right now. And that's absolutely true. I think too much about my love life, and it distracts me from doing what I have to do.
Joining conductor Toshiyuki Shimada will be guest Christine Lundquist.
Already, this was a year ago. And at the time when I did that, I thought, boy, this is it. Now I'm really doing something important, and from now on, it's all uphill. And it's gone down all year long. I look fairly young. I look younger than, I don't know. It doesn't look like me at all. I'm afraid to be rejected, and just as in my love life, if I feel rejected, then I don't feel good about myself, and so I don't have enough confidence to go out and do auditions. There is something inside of me that makes me fail, that makes me sort of halfway through the aria, there's a little voice that tells me, you can't do this, you shouldn't be doing this. And then I mess up, and somehow I feel like subconsciously I may do that on purpose, because I think, I don't know, I'm not sure whether I really want that kind of life, because I would like to just be with a man and have a baby and have a home, and that part of me wants to do that, and part of me wants to have a career. What's going to happen to me? I think I'm going to, I don't know. I also, is there any wood to knock on?
I finally got the big break that I've been waiting for. I got a role finally after all these years of auditioning. It took me 2.5 years. I did the audition a month and a half ago. And of course, you don't hear anything. You wait and you wait and you wait and you sweat marbles. And I came to the Opera House, and there was a message to me, the director of this opera company down in Costa Mesa, saying that if I was still interested, that they were still interested in me, and would I still consider coming down and doing the part? And I said, yes, indeed. So, of course, I start chewing my nails because she's there to see the performance of Rake's Progress that afternoon. And I knew darn well that my performance was going to determine whether I was going to get that job.
15 and a half, 3 quarters, 16, 17, going at 17, going.
She came up to see the Rake's Progress on Sunday. Monday was a day off, so I sat around the house and went from bed to the couch, just worrying whether I was going to get it or not. And then the call came Tuesday morning about 9:30, and I was groggy, of course, like, oh. And she goes, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't wake you. I woke you up. I go, no, it's all right. Tell me, talk. Did I get it? And she said, yes.
20, going at 23, going.
I've grown up a lot in the last 2 years, I think. I'm 41 now, which might seem a little late for people to be growing up. But I think that performers just continue to grow up their whole life long, especially unsuccessful performers. My mother died 2 years ago, and it's had a big impact on my life. I relied on her a lot. She lived in Portland, but we spoke on the phone 2, 3, 4 times a week. As a matter of fact, the day that she died, I called her twice because it was Thanksgiving. I called her in the morning to find out how her turkey was doing, and I called her in the afternoon after dinner was over. It's just disconcerting and hard to digest properly when the direction takes a really dark path, you know, death. Death is very much a part of the performing arts. It seems that a larger proportion of performing artists have died of AIDS. At the Opera House, there's been one chorister, a couple of other choristers are sick, supers have died, dressers. And that's having a big impact at the Opera House on how people deal with one another. So that my mother's dying kind of came in at the same time as everybody else is dying.
My fantasy when I was 17 was to be a leading tenor at La Scala in international houses and sing all over. The reality is that I am singing in a very good opera company in the chorus.
And once in a while, I have these waves of panic, like what's happening about now. No more cattle cars. It's so warm. Wearing my lucky underwear, underwear that I happen to be wearing for some reason when a lot of good things happen to me. And I think, see, when you're nervous, your motor skills are the first to go. Whether my throat is dry or not, I'll end up probably taking my medicine cabinet here, you know, Ricola, and I have all sorts of remedies. So I drink lots of water, have some candy in my mouth, and after the first 3 notes, it leaves. Because all it is nerves, that's all. The score, so I know what the heck I'm doing, what opera it is, Barber of Seville. Okay, I think this is it. It's opening night in Orange County. going to be a hard day. When the curtain goes up, I'm the first person you see.
Okay, darling.
I have to make sure that the audience knows this is a comic opera, and I have to make sure that from first sight people know that I'm a buffoon and completely ruled by money. Yeah, of course. Pay me and I'll do it. I've done it before. I do it on this side so I can get the front lighting because I come from this way. I come from left to right. So I do it that way. That'll be fine. I'm sweating already. Well, that's to be expected. I have to remember this vowel is closed. To remember that first P. Piano, piano. Signor Conte, Conte. Signor Conte, Conte. Buonanotte, notte, 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 not notte. Buonanotte, notte. Closed O. Oh, why wasn't I born in Italy?
5 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen of the orchestra
Buonanotte, notte, notte. Okay.
Mr. Matthews, 2 stage left. Gentlemen of the chorus, 2 stage right. Places, please, for the top of Act 1.
Okay.